All right, we live.
Oh, good evening, Mr. Terry Dredd. How are you, sir?
I'm good. I'm good, Mil. So, the question for tonight is: does racism still exist?
I'll be back on that, huh?
Yeah, man.
Okay.
Um, and not only does it still exist, to what extent does it still exist? I think, in our everyday lives, man, when I look out into the world, like it's a two-sided coin. It's one side of the coin where a lot of people in my community they really want to convince themselves and go out of their way, do everything in their power to believe and to convince themselves that racism does not exist. And if that's not a absolute thought process, then a lot of people definitely want to convince themselves that it doesn't exist to the extent in which it does. I had a conversation with a white man not too long ago when I worked in the prison system, and he was like, he was the architect, the head white man in charge, and I think, from working in that industry for so long, man, obviously it had an effect on his perception. So I pulled him to the side and just got to ask him some really interesting questions. And one of the things I asked him, I said, be honest with me. Amongst your family and friends, when y'all gather together, what's the percentage of white people in your community that don't want to see black people advance, that hate white people? I mean, that don't want to see black people advance, that hate black people, or that are just flat out racist. And he stopped and he thought, he said, about 50%. and you got this video circulating around with this kid, Kyle Rittenhouse, with his trial and his tears, that this fake tears that he was crying. And that's trending right now. But what people are not really talking about is the comment section. If you just take a minute to read the comments in this video, it really validates what that particular white man told me in terms of 50% of his population being racist. At least 50%. He said it's probably split down the middle. The comment section is ridiculous, man. You know, clearly black people look at him like he was faking his tears. Clearly black people, most black people, not all black people, of course, a lot of black people look at him as being guilty. Just for the simple fact that he had an illegal firearm and crossed state lines and went into the situation to begin with. I think a lot of us know that if we go into a white protest, cross state lines, underage with an illegal firearm, we're gonna get locked up for something and shoot people and kill people. We know we're gonna get locked up for something. They literally have made a defense for him for self-defense. And when you watch the trial, I've been in trials where, the prosecutor, the defense attorney, the judge, it seemed like the whole situation was rigged. And that's how this looked. It was one point where the attorney was talking to the judge, and the judge's phone went off, and it played the soundtrack to Donald Trump's campaign. To me, it looks like the fix is definitely in. And even if they are able to make a case for him for self defense, like I said, if that was a black person, they would find something to hang him on. Bringing an illegal firearm across state lines, underage. The mother will probably be charged who drove him there in the first place. The person that sold them the gun. There's all type of neglect going on in that situation, led to people dying. But if you read the comment section, white people got their mind made up. They making comments like, Kyle Rittenhouse for sheriff. I love Kyle Rittenhouse. You know, they really, this is like their poster child for their hatred towards idea that Black Lives Matter. You know, when it comes to the protest, there's a part that I understand. Like, you know, there was a point where I live in a really small town, and there was a day where I went out and all of the store owners were boarding up their stores. Not only do I live in a small town, I live on a downtown street, like literally over top of stores. I live over top of a renter center and all type of other stores, like downtown stores. I went outside and they was all boarding up. And I'm like, yo, what's going on? Like everybody was boarding their windows, closing early. I'm like, what's up, yo? They like, yo, Black Lives Matter is coming to town. They created such an atmosphere of fear in the air. I went home and I was ready to start packing my bags. Like I don't got no firearm in the house. At least not at that time. You hear me?
Yeah, no, I hear you. I hear you. I'm trying to. Go ahead, finish. My bad.
So my thing was when I seen them boarding the house up, the stores up, you know, in the atmosphere of fear and how everybody was running. I'm thinking, and that was at this peak when they was burning, everything was burning up. You know what I'm saying? The Antifa was involved in all that. And so I'm like, yo, if they come through here, no doubt they gonna burn down Runner Center. that ain't got no markings of a black owned business. Why would they spare that? So I'm like, all right, so it's probably best that I roll out. Come back when this shit is over. You know what I'm saying? I say that to say that. And then not only that, right after that, I put in my application for my gun permit. You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, I'm not gonna get caught slipping out here again. So I understand to a degree. I understand the fear that a lot of white people are dealing with because the whole Black Lives Matter situation spawned into something totally different when you got people burning down stores and breaking windows. But also got to take into consideration that when I was watching a lot of the media, okay, you gotta go. We'll pause. We'll pause and come back.
Uh,
All right. So what I'm gonna do is we're gonna just to fill the space up. We're gonna get into a little bit of this Kyle Rittenhouse right now. That's the subject we're dealing with.
my bad, son.
You back already?
Yeah, I missed it. It was Twizzy, but it's all good. All right. Yeah.
Hold on, let me all right. So you know, I understand that fear. I can relate to that fear. Not that I was afraid, but I felt the need to take certain precautions, obvious precautions. You know what I'm saying? Because like I said, that's when it was at its peak. You know what I'm saying? It was cops snatching people out their cars. You know what I mean? It was the media was just portraying everything as being chaotic at the time. And white folks around here was buying up guns like crazy. So I'm like, all right, let me get prepared. But with that said, man, you know what I'm saying? With that whole Black Lives Matter situation, there was a lot involved in that, man. You had Antifa involved in that. You had a lot of backdoor politics, bricks being laid on the corner. I'm saying? I think a lot of this stuff is being instigated. But with that said, man, white folks are not, a lot of white folks in these comment sections, they clearly not taking the time out to even analyze it from that perspective. A lot of them are just basically like, this kid is innocent, not even concerned about any of the facts of the case. He defended himself. They calling him a hero. To them, he's a hero. For a lot of them, he's a hero. Now, for me, that's an impossible pill to swallow. Because again, even if you can make the case, which is stretching it for self-defense, is so much involved in that. You got a 17-year-old kid with a military-style rifle traveling across state lines, escorted by his mom, walking around like everything's sweet. And it's not like cops wasn't out there doing their job. So even if they can make the case for self-defense and get him off of the murder charges, you gotta pay for something. There gotta be some kind of consequence. You can't tell that to the white folks in the comment sections. The judge is acting like a defense attorney, and the prosecutor acting like he's not even trying to win. So it looks to me like the fix is in, man. So back to our original question, man. Is racism still alive, and if so, to what degree, man?
I got a few things to say. I got a question. First of all, Kyle Rittenhouse, right? How many
Yeah,
people did he actually kill?
I think three people got shot. I don't know if he killed all three.
Were any of them black?
That's a good question. Not sure.
I know one. I know one of the guys was definitely a white dude.
And the judge said that the prosecutor could not refer to them as victims in the court.
Okay. So There's a couple issues. There's a couple things for me in that, right?
It looked
My
like they
first,
was all white.
yeah, that's what I thought. My first reaction was let them handle their own business, man. You know, that ain't really our business. You know, I get where you at about, you know, in terms of justice and equality, but why are we still expecting that? You know what I mean? Why is that even a play for us? Or why does that bother us how they judge and respond to their own? We know that it's not going to be the way they would judge and or respond to us in that situation, right? We already know that. Um, that's pretty much the obvious, right? To be honest with you, it may have been self defense. You know what I mean? But I think the problem is in the fact that he was where he was at and prepared for battle. You know, um, we know that there's two side. There's two kinds of justice. So that's what I got to say to that, right? I don't really care about that shit, man. To be honest with you, man. Um, is it messed up? Yeah. Is it unequal? Absolutely. But this is America, right? And this is how it always has played out. So, if they want to make him a hero, let them make him a hero. Shit, I don't care. Um, they also raised a lot of fucking money for him, man. Like $900,000. Christian fund raised up like $605,500, something like that. So yeah, there's definitely a following. You know what I mean? And we know about how things are strategically done um, by certain factions, right? So that's not a stretch, not for me. You know. So yeah, all of that what you said could actually be factual. I don't really. I know it was a Black Lives Matter protest. I don't know if I don't know why they're. I guess because it was a Black Lives Matters protest is why it's mentioned. I don't see what kind of impact that it had on Black Lives Matter at all. Um, Outside of giving them some publicity, you know. Uh, the question about racism: does racism still exist? As long as you have the power structure that's currently the power structure in terms of black white racism, it will always exist. Um, I think people are aware for the most part. You know, we were talking earlier, and I was saying that I've been having conversations where people are definitely punching home the message that you know we have to be careful out here. There are forces out here that don't mean us well, right? So that message is definitely being delivered different ways, and but I consistently am starting to hear that. So yeah, I think everybody knows that racism is part of the fabric that's built this corporation that we live in, right? Um, I also think some people in some situations think that they're still able to escape it. It really doesn't affect them unless they allow it to affect them. It's kind of like you might turn a blind eye to certain things because it doesn't directly impact your walk, your everyday walk. And some people just feel like it's here, it's been here, it's going to be here. We can make moves to operate around that and not so much focus on it. But yes, you know, the playing field is not level, and that's due to the systemic nature of the racism that is the fabric of America, a part of the fabric of America. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I got a mind twist for you. Definition of racism. Prejudice, discrimination, or antagonism directed against a person or people on the basis of their membership in a particular racial or ethnic group, typically one that is a minority or marginalized. Let's look up the definition of racist. I think these definitions actually may have changed over time.
Well, that's one of my biggest challenges with using the English language is that
Yeah.
every so often the definitions do change slightly, ever so slightly, but they do change. So
These def- mhm.
some of the terminology that may be employed by somebody like me or you might have a slightly different meaning today. You know what I mean? The other problem I got with definitions, like with some people in definitions, I'm sorry, there's always more than one. You
Right.
know what I mean? There's always more than one. So I found that sometimes, man, people correct me because I'm using a word and it's not in the mindset or it's not how they understand the word to be used. And I'm usually using like a definition that's a little further down the line
Right.
and of definitions. You know what I mean? And it can put somewhat of a strain on conversation sometimes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's where etymology comes in at, man. There was a professor named Professor Burton, a teacher named Professor Burton at Temple University, and they passed that program and taught an etymology class. Man, I wish he was still here because I learned so much just sitting in his class, man. He was a scientist with words, man, and he taught me some skill sets in terms of breaking down words. So what I did is I took the suffix ist on the
Mm-hmm.
word racist.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked up the definition of IST,
Mm-hmm.
and used with the names of some skills and professions to describe a person practicing that skill or profession,
Mm-hmm.
right? So we got that suffix IST added to the word race. Let's look at the definition of the word race. A competent, well, no, strong, rapid, compete with others. Okay, yeah. So these definitions of I'm finding online are very limiting, which is unfortunate for future generations.
Yeah, well,
But
my bad.
you got it.
Yeah, I also recognize Google to be a very limited search engine for
Yeah,
research.
yeah. I see that more and more. The more I use it,
Yeah.
the more I see like information is getting choppy and limited.
What's
But
getting
anyway,
it's getting redesigned.
right, right. So we got the word race, which we know when we talking about race. You know what I mean? We know what we talking about: white, black, etc., etc. And then we got the suffix ist, which means to be proficient. And so technically, the word racist is somebody that's proficient or somebody that embraces the concept of race. So by definition, I would go as far as to say everybody's. If you view yourself as black, and that's as far as it goes, by definition, you have embraced the concept of race, and you've technically fall in the category of racist, same as white. I'm going somewhere with this, right? I
Mm-hmm.
think I think a big part of the problem, even in our community, is the concept of embracing race itself. I think the concept of embrace itself is somewhat of a poison. Of course, we had the 60s and 70s movement where we were taught to be black and proud and all of that. But in us embracing so called blackness, we've neglected the broader aspect of our history and all of the different references that come with that, all of the many nations that we birthed, because we've limited ourselves to being black. The Moors sometimes try to make this argument, but even with that, they make it strictly from the perspective of being Moorish, and is way bigger than that. So I think it's a problem. I think it's a problem when black people only know themselves as black, and I think it's a problem when white people only know themselves as white. You know, in the white community, you have Italians, you have Polish, you have Irish, you have all these different things going on. But when you put that all under the umbrella of it being white and white people, that comes with a certain thought process. Same with black people. Media, media, and different stereotypes and all of that. When it comes to just embracing the idea of being black, I think a bigger part of our cultural values gets lost in that.
If I can interject, man, I think they're just completely devoid, and the not the proclaiming it, but the acceptance of it as a race. You know, and I'd like to add a little something, maybe a little context to what you're saying. Um, when we talk about black and white being a race, what are we really, what are we really saying? What's black and what's white? Um, if we're using the Constitution and the language is pretty clear, right? White being symbolic of hope and purity. You know what I mean? Black being symbolic of the void of life or negative, right? So we're using it in that context, then I think we should do ourselves better justice. Both sides should do themselves better justice by maybe focusing on what our ethnicity may be. The problem with that is how do we accurately assess that as Black people here in America with the Trail of Tears that we have? You know, so much of that has been erased and or just misrepresented or just taken away. That we really don't have a foothold in anything ethnic to say that this is who we are. This is where we come from. You know, on the flip side of that, we got a foothold in everything because this is who we are because of all of that. You know what I mean? So hmm, when you break it down to just these couple races, man, therein lies your problem because now there can be supremacy can be obtained now. You know what I mean? Depending on who's controlling narratives.
Speaking of who's controlling the narrative, I have to ask myself when the term racism was developed and applied to people's skin color, why did they use the word race in the first place? If we looking at the word literally, it's a strong or rapid uh, excuse me, a competition between runners, horses, vehicles, boats, etc., to see which is the fastest in covering a set course, or to compete with another or others to see who is the fastest at covering a set course or achieving an objective. Why was the word race chosen to apply to ethnic background in the first place?
Well, because of the apropos nature of what you just read.
Right,
Yeah, that's not hard to figure out. It may be
right,
a little hard
because
to accept, but it's not
when
hard
you
to figure.
look right, when you look at the reality, that's kind of what we see going on. You know what I
It's
mean?
kind of what we've always seen going
White
on.
people racing to stay ahead, and black people racing to catch up. You know what I'm saying? And when you look at it like that, it really simplifies the whole mindset of it all. Like when you separate yourself from that now, especially as a black person, when you separate yourself from that, and you no longer your life is you're not waking up every day to compete with what the white man has. It puts you in a whole nother place in terms of being able to appreciate life and getting to know yourself better.
Yeah, man, that's a more interesting journey, man. And freedom. Because like you just said, once you realize and you're not part of that dogma anymore, you're not. There isn't. You realize that there is no competition. There really is no race that you're running. You know what I mean? So you begin to focus on you. You begin to move the way you want to move at the speed that you want to move. You know what I mean? And I think what needs to be realized in that is that actually, as we're doing that, we're blazing trails. You know, so we starting a path for others to follow in and travel in as well. So this is where we have to be very conscious of the fact of what we're doing and what we're leaving behind. You know, if that makes any sense. It may sound kind of scattered to some people, but if it makes
Nah,
any sense,
nah, that makes perfect sense actually.
right?
And even when I look at white people, so-called white people
That's what
that
they
have
do.
stepped outside of that, right?
Yeah.
There's some white people that have stepped outside of that concept of race, whether voluntarily or involuntarily. I tend to have a different type of relationship with those type of white people. You know what I'm saying? White people that are not necessarily lusting for power, they're not necessarily trying to outdo me at every step. You know what I'm saying? Some of those white people we've come across in our neighborhoods that were just as poor as us. You know what I mean? But and usually if that's not the case, then it's an older white person that has gone through different channels and different experiences. You know what I'm saying? Where they realize they about to step into that other side and they want to start to reform themselves.
On some George Wallace stuff, huh?
You
I hear
know
that
what I'm
too.
saying?
So what I've learned, man, right, is that you know what people are people. You know what I mean? And America's not as black and white as it was when we came up. You know what I mean? You know, in terms of economics, right? Um, I mean, like I can remember when I grew up, man, the lines were like pretty clearly drawn. You know what I'm saying? Like people didn't like each other because of race. Was the catalyst of why they did not like each other. Now, and this is what I'm talking about. You know, when you say there's racism still here, you know, not to that degree. You know what I mean? Where you might can walk anywhere you want to walk now, and may not be discriminating. Got to worry about a gang of white boys teaming up and fucking you up. You know what I'm saying? And vice versa. You know, we couldn't do that when I was coming up. It was more, you know, in your face, right? So now it's just from a power structure standpoint, man. You know, you take something like this all this pushback against the critical race theory conversations that right. You know, you got one group of people saying it's teaching separatism and racism. It's teaching that somebody's good because they're this. I'm sorry, oppressed because they're this color, and oppressive because they're this color. You know, and it's offending some people, right? That's the mindset that's put on them because they had truly nothing to do with building that out, right? But that same mindset also allows things like a gross disparity in the wealth gap. You know, a huge disparity in education, housing, living conditions. You know, basic quality of life type things, right? So yeah, and you still benefit from that, and it's not like you don't know you're benefiting from that. You know what I'm saying? So you're not directly maybe being that dude or that chick that's racist openly, but you're still benefiting from the systemic nature of it, right? Again, this is America. You know, ooh, there's a couple layers to that question, man. Um,
Well, you know that brings us to the Amara Aubry trial because here you have a black man that was simply going out for a job and he got a little curious and looked on this development site where they was building a house. If I'm correct, he was a carpenter, so he had a valid reason to be curious. And here you had a group of white men that chased him down, ran him over, shot him up, killed him on the spot, broad daylight, lynching.
they were
So
making
when you say like it's not as bad as yesterday in terms of going in certain neighborhoods and not having to worry about getting bum rushed by white folks. I think that may be dependent upon where exactly we talk, where exactly you at. Because in
well, I was
some
talking.
places, obviously,
It's very real. Obviously, it's very real. I was speaking more to the nature of of the frequency. Like that was just like what happened. You know what I'm saying? Now I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but the cases aren't as there's not as many, or it's not happening as much as it used to. As I said, does racism still exist? Absolutely. You know, the
it
interesting
was
thing about
it was
uh,
almost the norm back in the day.
well, it was the norm. I almost my ass.
Right.
Um, so you know, and
Right.
then I mean, in retrospect, white boy couldn't be caught in my neighborhood either. We go get his ass beat. So it was just you know, the lines were drawn. You know what I mean? Um, Mr. Aubrey. I mean, he was probably going to look to take some shit to take. Like, I mean, you know what I mean? The twist with that is, man, you know, they had other people who came and did the same thing. You know, they had a white couple who actually came, looked, and left with shit, and it wasn't an issue. They had kids playing around, there wasn't an issue. And even if you were going to steal something from a construction site, that should not equate you losing your life. You know what I mean? You know, these guys, let's call a spade, right? They say they were making a citizen's arrest. They was nigga hunting. You know what I mean? It is what it is. You know, I guess the disturbing part for me is that there's a trial in the first place. You can't do that kind of stuff, man. You know what I mean? You just can't take it upon yourself to take somebody's life and then go back to your life like you didn't do that. Unless, of course, you're somebody like George Zimmerman, or is George Zimmerman the precedent? You know, hmm, that's an interesting case with Ahmad Aubrey. You know, and again, man, like I expect them to spin it, man. I expect them to make them look as harmless as possible. That I was watching a video, and the lawyer was saying, they saw him, he was running, and he looked like he might be carrying a weapon because he had on pants with pockets.
Wow.
I was
Lord.
like, I was like, wow, that man. First it was a hoodie. Now you got pants with pockets on them, and you're black and you're running from white people. That there's a possibility that you got a weapon in there. That's pretty heavy to me, man. You know what I mean? It's pretty deep. Um, but again, I don't think it affects everybody. You know what I mean? Outside of what you're seeing, where it was a time where like it was really super unsafe to be traveling like that. You know what I mean? Um, and now we have, not to lessen the impact of racism, man. I'm just merely saying I don't think this happens as frequently as it once did.
I would say it doesn't happen as openly, and I guess that
I,
equates to frequently as well because
yeah, but
I could.
I will argue that.
Huh?
No, I will argue that, man, because I haven't seen the rash of. Oh, I guess it wasn't social media. You know what I mean back then either, man. But for a while there, man, it was a police stop ended in a black person dying, black person's death. You know, what I mean that's pretty much was the norm, right? And it pretty much still is the norm. You know, so I would think it's actually probably a little more obtuse from that perspective. And again, we actually attribute that to cell phone cameras and social media. And we can see almost most of the shit we can almost see real time. You know, back then, we had to wait a little while before we found out. At least wait to the news or something like that. So,
Yeah, I think a lot of white folks learned from those periods of the '60s, '70s, and all of that, and became more covert with it.
yeah, I think they just realized that what they have in their favor, and they cultivate it. Like which is what I would do. I can't be mad at them for that. You know, I'm not a fan of it. I'm not big up in it, but it's what I expect. So
Right.
I think that we should be focusing more on we already had this conversation several times. I think we should be more focusing on self sufficiency. But in order for that to be a thing, we got to start. We need some coalitions, man. We need some cohesiveness, man. We need some the safety in numbers, right?
Yeah, I mean, but what is self-sufficiency when we under attack? Because there have been people. I always say there have been people much smarter than me, much more passionate than me, that have achieved these goals of self-sufficiency just to come under the same attack. I mean, we got Move in Philadelphia, an independent organization. I mean, and they had a whole bomb dropped on them. So I mean, we see several examples throughout history like that. We can build our own community. We can rebuild our community, have banks, hospitals, achieve the ultimate levels of self-sufficiency just to come under the same attacks. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do, man. And it's our duty to take the works of our ancestors, man, and build upon them to make them, a little more solid, right? So, yeah, we can do it from an individual perspective about building a community here and building a community there, but then it has to be a blockchain. We got to get that blockchain mentality to where as though we're all linked. So what happens in this community directly affects the community that it's linked to, and there's going to be reverb. You know what I'm saying? Which is some real revolutionary type talk. You know, um, but we got to start building that out, man. Because as I said, like it's not that racism, or as you said, I should say, it's not that racism is not as open as it was. It's just done more covertly in a sense. You know what I mean? On a broader scale, like we got some shock value with things that let us know, hey, we still don't fuck with y'all. We ain't trying to fuck with y'all, right? And them shits is like right in our face, you know. But then you got so much other stuff that's happening in the background on a way larger scale than what just happened right here. Not to diminish it, but
I think
that's
I
some
think
tricky shit.
I think one of the things that has to happen, and this is something that I see commonly throughout history when our people have united, I think we have to come to a universal consensus
Well,
that
that's what
we
I'm
are
saying.
under attack.
Well, I
That
mean, I think that's
war
pretty much.
has been and is being waged against us on a daily basis.
Yeah, I think we know that. I think our problem is, wanting to be separate. It's this thirst we have to, be counted as the same, but be, dealt with separately. That undoes us. That undoes us, man. Or is our undoing, as they say. Again, if they know that what happens in Philadelphia directly impacts what happens in say Atlanta or Los Angeles, and that Los Angeles or Atlanta is coming to, you know, to seek justice for what happened in Philadelphia. You know what I mean? It's power. So we might have these communities, but we don't possess power. And again, there's strength in numbers. So if I don't know how we do it, bro, and it probably sounds like some Terminator 3 resistance type talk to some people, man. But we need ours, man. When I say self sustaining, I'm not talking about just economically, man. We need to be growing our own food. We need to have our own doctors. We need to have our own scientists, man. We need to have our own carpenters, electricians, plumbers. We need to have everything. You know what I mean? Soldiers, you know, um, nurses, doctors. We need to have all of that, man, so we don't have to go outside of ourselves to stay alive.
All in opposition rather than trying to share a space with those that really don't want to share a space with us, those that are actually competing against us.
Yeah. So I mean, there's no secret that there's two different Americas, man, for black and white people, right? You know what I mean? There's always been that, you know what I mean? But it's a new wrinkle to it now. It's an economic tier that's that's dealing with some level of oppression themselves. You know what I mean? And that doesn't have any. There's no color attached to that. You know, and if you want to add the. Oh man, I ain't gonna even go there because I don't even know what the hell to call it. It's too many letters for me. If you want to add the gay community to that as well, then I guess that ain't right because they LBGTQ. What I'm forgetting?
It's a couple more they added on there, like you just
Right.
said, man. I don't
I
even
can't
know
keep
how to
up. I
do this.
can't keep
I'm
up.
done. I'm
I
done,
can't.
yo.
I can't. I'm Dave Chappelle, done my dude. Like, you know what I mean? So, so, but if we add that to the mix as well, man, you know, it's just further dissection, man. Right? I don't know, bro. Like I always ask the question, man. You know, what's going to be that galvanizing thing, man? When is that lightning going to strike? You know, everybody wake up and like, yeah, we got to do this shit before it's too late, because there's a revolution going on, man. That you know, there's a change going on right in front of our faces, man. That if we're not careful about that, we're going to be, you know, on a very negative end of it. You know what I mean? And then the super rich of us that are super rich are going to, you know, phase and integrate right into, you know, society instead of, you know, well, they're gonna phase into it because you know they have the assets to do that. Ugh.
Here's a question for you. Taking into consideration the definition that I gave you, the suffix, I said synonym earlier. I meant to say suffix, ist. Um, Racist as far as that definition. Can black people be racist? That's been a topic of debate in the intellectual community.
Well, we don't possess the assets to be racist.
So if we looking at the technical definition, if we speaking technically speaking, race, ist, someone that embraces the concept of race, someone that is proficient within their race, or within that race. If we looking at the definition and the literal ideology of the term race, and I would go as far, like I said earlier, man. I would go as far as to say, if you see yourself as black, according to the definition that you've been given, from a racial standpoint, then yes, black people can be racist. Now, from a more layman's perspective, in response to your response, the implication that black people do not have the power to be racist, I think is false. I don't think that black people have the same power that white people have, but to imply that black people don't have power and are completely powerless in terms of race, I think is a what they say is a misnomer, is a misconception. You
Yeah.
know, and I'll give you an example. As a kid, I grew up in a black neighborhood. There was a Chinese store on the corner, Mr. Kim. Every day I would go in that Chinese store, man, and hear people disrespect them. You chink, get my shit, you chink. You know what I'm saying? At that time, it was an all-black community. All of the stores in the neighborhood were ran by black people. The businesses were black people, from the funeral home to the candy store. Mr. Kim just happened to be one of the first of his kind in our neighborhood, and he had to deal with a lot of disrespect because he wasn't black. At that time, black people had the power because of the neighborhood was self-sufficient and predominantly ran by black people. And that's an example of black people having the power to perpetuate racism from that layman's perspective.
Right. So I'm looking at the Oxford Dictionary defines racism as prejudice, discrimination, or antagonism directed against someone of a different race based on the belief that one's own race, is superior. So, you know, just to add on to that, like, you know, that's why I was kind of thinking, like, when I say we don't have the resources, that's not what I said, but anyway, if we don't have the means to be racist because we can never claim that superiority and show it. You know what I mean? Here in America. So I'm sure we're probably just subscribing to what we talked about earlier, right? Two different, slightly different definitions of the same word. You know what I mean? Yeah, we have the power to flex our might against someone else. And if that's what we're defining as racist or racism, yeah, we can do that. Yes, absolutely. I agree with you.
Now,
Anybody can.
don't get it twisted. When white people start talking that reverse racism shit and all that, they like to take that and manipulate that. You know what I'm saying? And make it say they like to create instances where they they like to make themselves the victim. In the midst of their own racist behavior, they like to make themselves the victim and use terms like reverse racism and all of that. Now, I think all that's bullshit.
I think it's just a narcissist. I think it's just the mind of a narcissist, man. You know, where you're always going to redeflect, change narratives, and kind of victim make you like you said, make yourself the victim. You know what I mean? So even though all this was done, so you can have the life that you're having now, right? You can sit in the seats that you're sitting in now. You can be in the rooms that you're in now, right? So all the racism that led up to that was engineered to facilitate that in itself. Um,
I'm careful about any ideology that paints the picture that black people are powerless. I
well, I
think
don't
black
think.
people, I think we have power, and we have power in the interest of race. And I think that sometimes, just like any flawed human being, we can misuse that power. And I think there's a certain level of accountability that comes with that. But in terms of aspiring to any type of ideology that promotes the notion that we're powerless, I think that's false. We're not powerless out here. We might not hold the same weight or the same positions that white people have to the degree in which they have them.
Uh,
But
that
I'm sorry.
yeah, that directly speaks to things like ownership, and that's what I'm talking about. Like, if we don't have that ownership power, what I mean, then we really don't have any power. Like, if we don't own our shit, if we can't produce our barest resources, how can we ever be self sustaining? Because we always got to go somebody else. We always got to go somebody else to get the things that we need. You know,
I'll go as far as to say black people can be racist towards other black people. I've
like
seen that. Candace Owens.
I don't know if she's being racist as she is to being. I think she kind of sets out to be obnoxious. A bit of a dick sometimes, but I don't know that she's
I mean,
being racist.
when you look at the strategic manipulation behind some of her ideals, some of her ideas, I was reading something earlier today. I think it might have been in relation to the Kyle Rittenhouse situation. But when you look at some of her ideas and the way she goes about putting it out there, here we go. I hope Kyle Rittenhouse spends the rest of his life suing every single politician, business, individual, and media network who smeared him as a white supremacist murderer. I genuinely hope he never, ever stops collecting checks from these monsters. He was an innocent kid. So to me, this is a perfect example of racism because what she's is so strategic, it's so covert in terms of the threat, the mental threat against the black community by promoting these type of ideas, the timing, the manner in which she promotes them. To me, it definitely falls under the category of racism, black on black racism. Because a lot of these black people really are the mouthpiece for racist white people who are afraid to say what they want to say or who strategize in a way where they put a black face on it and say what they want to say. But it's the
Yeah,
same racism, same racist ideologies and principles.
well, they're upholding white supremacy for sure. I don't know if that makes them a racist. I don't know if they can be. I think it makes them a heel. It makes them a puppet, an agent, or what they call them now, op. But it's just, I guess it's it's kind of like watching the Boondocks and listening to Uncle Ruckus.
Yeah, but well, it goes back to that whole power thing. The difference between Uncle Ruckus and Candace Owens, she does have power. She's a media figure that has a major following, and people listen to what she say and follow behind. She has power. That's power.
So yeah, I mean, if Uncle Ruckus was the real dude, I'm sure he would be an internet sensation. You know what I mean? Who would amass a huge following because of the unbelievable nature of what he says and what he represents. Right? I think it's the same thing that kind of Candace Parker. Candace Parker. What's her name?
Candace Owens.
Candace Owens. My bad, Candace Parker. My bad, baby. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Um, I think that she's kind of that same mindset. She's using it to capitalize, man. You know, some of the things I'm with you, man. Some of the things she says, there's no way she could actually, subscribe to that shit. Like it's a tough sell for me, man. I think she's doing it for views and likes and money. Like, you know what I mean? Because
And social acceptance, white social acceptance as well.
well, at the end of the day, man, you're black, man. So like, I don't know how you ever lose track of that, man. You know what I mean? I don't care how much affiliation you obtain and things of that nature, man, you're never gonna stop being black. You know, as white as Michael Jackson got, he was still a nigga. You know what I mean? So, that Candace Parker be great, man. I'm Candace Parker. Bang, I keep
She on your
bang.
mind, man. Who's Candace Parker? I gotta look her up, try to
What?
figure out why she on your mind so heavy.
She just became the female Michael Jordan. She just won a championship, man. She brought a championship home to Chicago, man.
Female basketball?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And Candace Parker's in my conversation, man. Way more than Candace Owens, man. So when I hear
Right, right,
Candace,
right.
like, I call me a member, call me a participator in cancel culture, but she's out of there for me, man. I don't entertain her at all. Candace
Right,
Owens.
right, right.
There's
So
really no point.
let's look at that Aaron Rodgers reaction versus the Kyrie Irving reaction, right? You had an incident where in the NFL, man, this white dude beat this black woman damn near to death, yo. I think I might have heard about that shit for one day and never heard about it again.
So did you
When Ray
expect to?
Rice, uh,
Did you expect to?
no,
Right.
you already know. His name
Exactly.
was Chad something. What was his name? Chad. I know it was Chad something.
I
Did you
know the
know his
incident.
name?
I
Yeah.
know the incident that you're talking about, but his wife was black too, right?
His wife was black and he beat her half to death, man. And I
He
heard
didn't
about
beat
it.
her.
I heard
He didn't
about it.
beat
It
her.
was a
He's so fucking dramatic sometimes, man.
what? No,
He didn't. He didn't
he
beat her
had to
half.
fake. Yeah, she had to fake like she was dead or something like that to get in and stop beating her, man.
Yeah, she was
He beat,
smart. I mean, if you get attacked by a bear, nigga play dead. That's what she had to
yeah,
do. You know what I mean? But he didn't beat her half to death. He beat her up a little bit. I
man,
think he
he
was
beat.
having roid rage or some shit like that, man. But I mean, and this is again, I think he should be serving jail time for what he did to that woman, man.
You
Black,
know,
white, green, whatever. You know,
when I use the term beat her half to death, you got to keep in mind too. I'm not just talking about physical impact. I'm also talking about how a person is affected mentally and emotionally. When you take a beating like that from somebody that you open, you trust, you vulnerable to, you know what I'm saying? I don't know where that woman, what her state and condition is. She may have healed from the physical wounds. She could be suicidal right now. So I use that term beat her half to death loosely. You know what I'm saying?
oh yeah,
But
yeah. I'm just giving you a little shit about it.
my,
Um,
my
um,
point is when I think it was Ray Rice. Was it Ray
mhm.
Rice that dragged the chick in the elevator or something crazy like that?
Uppercut scene around the world.
Yo, listen, when that happened, man, we never heard the end of it. You know what I'm
Neither did
saying?
Ray Rice. He never made it back to the NFL, man. To this day, he never made it back to the NFL, man.
The boy that beat the black woman up, is he back? Is he playing? Is he back on the field?
I have no idea.
That's something we should look up. But that brings us into this whole Aaron Rodgers, Kyrie Irving thing. Kyrie Irving didn't want to take the vaccine, and he got shitted on. Aaron Rodgers lied about it. Same situation. You know what I'm saying? And he was basically treated like slap on the wrist, no big deal. What do you think about these differences in terms of these reactions?
Chad Wheeler.
That's him. What's his name?
Chad Wheeler. Chad Wheeler. And it wasn't his wife, it was his girlfriend.
Okay.
Anyway, what I think about that, I think Aaron Rodgers is a white man, and I think Kyrie Irving is a black man.
Enough said. Enough said.
you know, so I mean, I'm not looking to cross reference them two things. They're two completely different things, man. Again, we already know. Like, I mean,
Right.
and the situation was slightly different, man. Kyrie just flat out said, "I ain't fucking taking it." It was an act of defiance, man. Aaron Rodgers was not defiant.
What?
He wasn't.
Oh
He said I got immunized. I watched the whole interview, man. He said he got immunized.
no, he said, listen, the question went like this. Have you been vaccinated? The answer went like this. Yeah, yeah, I have been immunized. So he spoke to the affirmative twice in response to the question, and then added the technology at the end of it. I have
I
been
don't think it was
immunized.
technology as it was clever. You know what I mean? So Aaron Rodgers might be our way out of this mandate, bro.
Well, yeah,
Hey,
I mean that's a separate kind. I'm not arguing whether or not I disagree with his
I,
views. You know what I'm
I tell
saying?
you, I tell you who I was disappointed with. I'm with Kwame on this one, man. Where the show at? Where they at? Why they not talking about it?
Who? Stephen A.
Everybody that had a response about Kyrie Irving being a bad person and a bad teammate, how he's putting his team at risk, how he's disrespecting the owners, so forth and so on, right? Disrespecting the NBA, even though Adam Silver said, "Hey, listen, he's a grown man. He can make whatever decision he wants to make. It has no bearing on me." You know what I'm saying? I have no response to whatever he chooses to do, man. That's on that brother. You know, so Kyrie fell victim to just what Kwame Brown was talking about, man. You know what I mean? To go along, get along, right? So, and then the big money at the top. Do what I say, or else. You know what I mean? I wouldn't be surprised if Kyrie Irving, he may not make it back into basketball. He may not make it back into the NBA if he doesn't, play ball because that kind of defiance will not be tolerated, man. The
Mm.
poster boy who was saying that he was against. Well, I don't know if he was saying he was against it, but he was doing his research on finding out about the stick. I got the impression that he wasn't going to do it. You know what I mean? But LeBron did it, so why can't Kyrie Irving do it?
So
You got
that
LeBron.
that that reminds me of the this whole Colin Kaepernick thing. Did you watch the Kaepernick thing on Netflix?
Nah, man. You know what? Not yet. I have not. But with Kaepernick, man, Colin Kaepernick, man, I just think that I don't know why people didn't realize how his narrative just got obliterated and repurposed. Like, you know what I mean? What he said never became a topic of conversation in contrast to what he was doing. He became, an unpatriotic uh, person, man. You know, he his action was viewed as very vagrant when he took the knee. It surprised me that people didn't realize that they had a United States soldier, I believe it's from the army, in uniform, I believe as well, taking the knee right next to him and
I mean,
side of the shoulder. And it
that
was
the
a white man going
technology?
full
That's the
blast.
technology at work again, right?
I don't know if it's strict knowledge. Well, it must be because it doesn't seem to be a point of discussion. With Kyrie, back to Kyrie and Aaron Rodgers. I make light of it, man, because I think it's funny. You know what I mean? That Aaron Rodgers can get Kyrie's basically doing his shit on Twitter and IG and stuff like that, right? I don't think he's made too many formal appearances about his decision, let alone doing like a 45 minute to an hour long interview with somebody about it. I mean, having said that, I think Aaron Rodgers gives great points on why he didn't want to take the jab. There are alternatives, like you know what I'm saying, and for that, I'm cool with it. That's why I say he may even be our way out of this shit, man, eventually, or by default even. Kyrie's a way different personality, man. He's pretty eccentric, So again, his was just an act of defiance. Aaron Rodgers, as slick as he as he attempted to be, he wasn't defiant.
Both
Having
of
said
them
that,
are
having
both
said
of
that,
them are acts of defiance.
having said that, right? I think he should get all the shit that Kyrie got. I actually think he should get more. You know what I mean? Because Kyrie manned up and was like, "Yeah, I'm not doing it.
Right,
Whatever." You know what I'm saying?
right.
Aaron came more with the, I'm immunized, and ain't nobody pick up on that shit. They can't say he lied. You know what I mean? You know, I'm interested. He said he found out that he was allergic to two chemicals that were in the Moderna and the Pfizer, and then the Johnson and Johnson had went bonkers by that time. So my other question is, how many other guys are in the NFL of high levels that haven't taken it? Well, I got the paperwork to say they did. I mean, again, it's what I would have done early on. Like, you know what I'm saying? Doc, how much you want? All right, yeah, fill that out. Dump that batch. How they gonna know? How are they really gonna know?
Well, I think when it's all said and done, that's what it's going to come down to. Wealthy people being able to buy their way out of it, and we dealing with a real slippery slope when we start letting government entities and people in certain financial positions dictate what can be injected into your body. Kind of.
So,
I'm sorry.
okay, bro.
Yeah, I mean, it makes me think of that one police brutality incident where they choked out the young boy. He was an innocent kid walking down the street, and then they stuck him in the neck with some ketamine or some crazy chemical that ended up killing him. I mean, we just dealing with very dangerous territory, man. When other people can dictate what's injected into our bodies, because at that point, after a certain point, you got a Hunger Games type situation. You know what I mean? Where the wealthy can determine, how your body functions basically, and you don't
Yeah.
have any type of autonomy.
So that actually cycles back to what I was saying about the need for self sustenance. And that's on every level. So then people can't fall victim to it. You know what I mean? But they have nothing to pigeonhole you to. So if you can produce your own way to sustain without having to use the government, that's a total win-win. That takes the power right back and balances it. You know what I mean? Instead of it being top heavy one direction. So again, I think people just need to pay attention. Who was it? Elijah Muhammad that said, whether you want to or whether you don't, that you will be forced to choose a side. And message to the black man, I believe that's where I got that extra from, right? So we got to be about making our alliances, man, and fortifying them. Blockchain. So we can be able to stay around without having to wait for a handout. You know what I mean? So it's pretty hot. It's pretty dope right there. I like that. I like that line of questioning. Um,
Word. So I think we covered everything, man. I think the answer to the question, does racism still exist? I think the obvious answer is hell yeah. You know what I'm saying? Most definitely. And I think we did a good job at one of the criticisms that people oftentimes come at us with when we have these conversations is like, well, what are you doing about it? Why are you just talking about it? You know what I'm saying? It's like, you know what I'm saying?
well, that's
Like we
all
got
we can do right now. You know, that's simple. What else the fuck can
yeah,
you do? You know
and we
what I
got
mean?
to actually defend the notion of. I think that's a part of the racist mindset in itself. You know what I mean, in terms of how it influences our people. But being afraid to talk about it or looking at talking about it as being some type of threat. I think a lot of it starts with conversation, strategizing, and I think we did a good job at putting some ideas out there in terms of how to respond properly to racism as well.
Yeah, well, for me, man, someone has to be the harbinger. So, like you said, that's where it starts at, man. What we're doing individually, man. We are doing things individually, like because we have no choice but to. We ain't just talking it, man. We gotta have some application to our walk. Um, last week we was on here talking about the two brothers that's doing the food drive. You know what I mean? This Saturday. Um, yeah, there are things being done, man, and that's a level of self sustenance right there. You know what I mean? It's a start. It's a start. You know, I think we should grab some of these lots, man, and turn them into living gardens, man. Where we can maybe all this big open space, man, before it gets too late, man. We can use it and turn it into neighborhood grows. I don't grow stands. I don't know what you call them, but
Yeah,
where you
yeah,
could,
we got people out here on that mission as well.
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
What
because
they got?
that's my thing, man. There's never been a point where our people have not been stepping up to the plate. You know what I'm saying?
Well, that's
When
not the
people make an
issue. That's
argument,
I
right?
agree with you. That's never been our issue, man. Our issue has never been that we can't. Our issues has always been one of a lack of the collective. And that to me goes back to just a lack of love for one another. And for yourself even. If we're looking at what some people do and how they alter themselves and what lengths they go through, right? You know, I can't see it as anything other than self hate. To be honest with you, not saying you can't augment yourself some kind of way, or even just change how you look just as because that's what you like to do. It's fun. It's whatever. But at the rate that it's happening, man, and the attitude that goes along with why it's happening, I can only see self hate. You don't like your image, so you're going to do everything you can to change your image to try to whatever you want it to be. You know, that's a sick and twisted mind right there. You know
Right.
what I mean? They got man weaves out now, man, where dudes is actually going there and paying all this money to get come out with fake dreads and fake hair and what I mean, to look quote unquote sort of natural or whatever.
Why you think I've been talking about getting my barber license, man? I'm about to get all that money.
Yeah, I don't think I have that kind of patience, man, to do that kind of stuff. Yeah, I don't think I could dial into that kind of stuff, bro. That don't go with my mental. You know what I mean? So yeah, I can't. Nah.
Nah. On another note, though, I've been
That's
watching a
pretty.
lot.
That's pretty wild. That's pretty wild.
Yeah, yeah. Nah, but I've been watching a lot of videos, man, where this is one barber, Mickey the barber, man, and she specializes in helping people with like alopecia and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And some of her work is magnificent, but that's more the angle. Like if I was to go that route, that's more the angle that I would go with, like medical problems, alopecia, stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm not sure I could even pull that off, bro. You know what I mean? I can't see my. I mean, and listen, man, the empathy is there. I
Right.
just I'm just anti-fake, man. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, 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 yeah,
So,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
you know, I just don't think it's necessary, man. But I mean, some people want to look. I don't know, man. Like, I'm gonna keep my mouth shut on that one, man, because my views on that
I
one
mean,
might
listen, you see how
it
I
may
got
offend some
chopped up?
people.
You see how they try to chop me up when I made that post about men preferring natural hair over weaves and wigs.
Oh man, how they chop you up? You got me chopped up. But I
They
mean, I love those
try,
kind
yeah.
of posts, man. I love a controversial post, man. Like it just does something to me, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just to see,
Crazy
just to
part
see.
is I never know what post is gonna spark that kind of reaction. You know what I'm saying? It just
Yeah.
always come out of nowhere. Like, damn, all right,
I mean, sometimes I can actually gauge it, man. You know me, I set it up sometimes, bro.
right,
I
right, right.
impact, man. You know what I mean? Matter of fact, I'm due one. I gotta find one, man. Um,
All you gotta do is talk about black woman's hair.
yeah, I'm not, man. I love my sisters, man. You know, immensely. I love my sisters. I need them. I love them. I need them. You know what I mean? I'm nothing without you.
Now, as a
So,
matter of fact, all you gotta do is talk about anything that gotta do with black women, as far as like
oh man,
how they've been affected by racism and oppression.
oh man.
That's a tough subject to cover, man. Because
Um,
the pain, the bruise, like when you've
so
been bruised, man, it hurt to even touch that bruise, even if somebody coming along with first aid.
yeah, but you gotta touch the bruise. You gotta, break it up and move it around and create some circulation, man, in order for it to get better. So, like, I mean, some pressure has to be applied to it, and I'm always willing to have the uncomfortable conversation, man, both ways. Tell me what you don't, what you think the shortcoming, is for black men, or what you don't like about black men. You know what I mean? What we do that's offensive or unnecessary or excessive. It's not just a one way street for me, because if I can't take what you're saying, what I mean, and improve myself on it, then that means you don't matter to me. You know what I mean? I mean, your opinion is nothing to me. Your opinion is bullshit. Like I can live my life without it, and you keep it to yourself. And some people, yeah, I'm totally like that with you. Know me, right? So, but we if we gotta have the talks, man.
Right,
As men and women, as black men and
right.
as black women, because we're creating black babies, and our babies are lost before they even get a chance because our communication is so horrible.
That's
You
right.
tell me something you don't like about me, I got to counter it with two things I don't like about you. That's crazy to me. You know what I mean? Instead of saying, "Hey, I hear you," and actually thank you for communicating that to me, so now I can improve on it. I can make it better. I can make me better. And
I mean, it really sheds light. It brings me back to the term race. Like when you break it down to a very literal reality, we all seem to be caught up in a race, a competition against one another,
I mean, yeah, but
one up in each other.
that competition can be healthy. You know what I mean? We've always been players of games and stuff like that, right? And have competitions.
Yeah,
And again,
I think it's healthy when like you talk about games competition. That's something that we designate specific periods in time for in our lives in order to in order to elevate, in order to have fun. I think the problem comes when it's a constant battle. It's a constant race. We wake
well,
up
yeah,
to it, we go to sleep to it. 24/7, 365.
yeah, yeah. And you know what, man? Man, I'm kind of analytical sometimes, man, and I study people, right? So, I'm noticing, man, some people's indifference. You know what I mean? Or some people's how their mechanisms, or how they cope with. Well, because we all walk in the same walk. I mean, ultimately, like as quote unquote black people here in America, man, our walk ain't too much different from anybody else's, right? That's black, um, except for Kamala Harris, of course, um, and her redefine blackness or what blackness is. Um, so you done made me lose my train of thought.
It's all good, man. We I think
Crazy.
we covered enough ground.
All
We
right, yeah,
made the point.
we can edit that part out. We can take it up. We can leave it up to Kamala Harris, but after that, yeah,
I
man.
mean, just to piggyback off what you're saying about Kamala Harris, the tricky part about us being stuck on the idea of being black, being stuck on that racial concept is it's easy to manipulate. Somebody like Kamala Harris can come along, throw on some Converse, say she smokes some weed, listen to Snoop Dogg, and she's black. Even though she might literally hate black people, you know what I'm saying? Just having a
Uh,
little bit of brown texture to her skin and feeding into certain stereotypes, and she's black.
let's unpack that for a hot second before we get out of here, then, right? Because that's a lot to say right there. You know, I wouldn't say she hates black people. I would say she doesn't affiliate or align herself with quote unquote African Americans.
Right.
You know what I mean? According to
Not,
her,
not, not without purpose, not without some form of
no,
manipulation.
no, she does not align herself with them. She says, "I'm black, but."
Right, right, right,
You
right,
know what I mean? Don't get
right.
me chopped. And if I'm looking at her image, man, she's to me personally, she has more of an image of a Caucasian than she does of somebody who's quote unquote non-Caucasian or black. Right? She got
Word.
all
There
the
you have it.
markings of somebody. You know what I mean? That was very fair and very pale down to her hair, right? The limpness of her hair, so forth and so on. So she's definitely like akin to that as well. Um, but we dealing with straight imagery, man. Like I remember growing up, man, where the dark skinned girls didn't really bang with the light skinned girls, let alone to be like unless they were actually sisters. You know what I mean? Let alone they had their squad, right? But the my point is the love affair that black women had with Kamala Harris, man. I just did not understand that shit. You know what I mean? I just did not understand. Like, where did it come from? Like, she don't even look like she black. Like, you know what I mean?
Well, again, it goes back into being able to manipulate the concept of what blackness is. Join a sorority with a black woman sorority, hang with this, sorority, wear the Converse shoes, smoke the weed, listen to some rap music. All of the elements of blackness is it when we limit ourselves to this term black, it's easy to manipulate. Umar Johnson is another perfect example of that to me.
Oh man,
You
nigga,
know what I'm saying? Because we're limited to this idea of our blackness, a very limited perspective of who we are, all you got to do is feed ideals of what blackness is, and people attach themselves to that. Add a little sprinkle of knowledge to it, some shit that makes sense here and there. You know what I mean? And he can get away with all of the buffoonery in the world that he wants. And it's people that I seen that I came up with, man, that love this dude, man. You know what I'm saying? Brothers, black men that love this dude. You know what I'm saying? And you don't get a pass from me for speaking shit that makes sense, but then you come with 85% buffoonery. You know what I'm saying? Like
yeah, well,
I'm good, man.
yeah, man. Rakim said, "Whoever said the little knowledge was dangerous, it can't be mixed, diluted, changed, or switched." Right. So,
Thank you,
um,
thank you for that.
yeah, absolutely. You know what I mean. So we gotta be very wary of false prophets, man. Because they come cloaked and shrouded in things that we can attach ourselves to, right? The look, the wordplay, the brazen attitude that I'm gonna be defiant against the system when I'm actually not being defiant towards the system at all. Um, yeah, we definitely gotta, take heed to stuff like that. And again, dealing with self sustenance, man, if we had a way that we could deal with that internally ourselves, man, then they wouldn't be doing what they doing. You know what I mean? Talk about ops, man. Come on. Now, I'm not saying Umar's an op, but I'm just saying,
I am.
he got
I am.
he gets a lot of grace, man. He gets dealt with a lot of grace for some of his rhetoric, man. So I totally, 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 totally agree with you on that, man. Damn, bro, that's kind of heavy, man. So I think we got away from Umar quite maybe quite safely. You done yet? I don't know. I know how you do with Umar.
Yeah, come on, man. I
He
mean,
still got his two wives.
listen, I've done a very good job at falling back off of Umar, man, because I'm not in the business. I'm not in the business of attacking other black people, other black men, whatever have you, man. But some shit just need to be
Hey, man,
said
would
when
it
it
really
needs to
be
be
an
said.
attack? would it really
Huh?
be considered? Would it really be considered an attack? We
Nah,
talking about Umar.
it's more of an observation.
Right, right. We talking about the Prince of Pan Africanism, King Kong
Wow.
of consciousness.
Right.
I mean, come on, man. My guy, I fucks with Umar. The entertainment value is off the fucking hook with that dude, man. You know
Right,
what I
but
mean?
just like any form of entertainment, man, it can become a distraction if you're not. If you're
Well,
not on point.
well, therein lies what I'm saying, right? I think it's meant to be a distraction.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's meant to be a distraction, no more, no less, man. Oh man, I want to say so much, man. But I'm just flooded right now. You know what I'm saying? I can't get that one main thought that I want to say, man. But I think the night was dope. As usual. Um, my bad. The food drive is my man, International Frontline CEO too. At IG, hit him up. You know what I mean? Philly Low Lives. Uh, hit them up. Um, food drive, November 13th. Where's it
Gary
at again,
Ave,
Greg? Broad
Gary
right?
Ave, Broadnery in
What?
front of Church's Chicken, 12 p.m.
Boom. You know what I mean? Um, huh. Yeah, I guess the more
Like,
I'm
shout
just
out
gonna
to
say.
Alzheimer's Walk too, man.
Oh yeah, man. Again, yeah, the Alzheimer's walk again. Uh, November 13th to Saturday down at Citizens Bank Park. Uh, sign in time is about 9 a.m. You know, come out, show some support, man. Hit me at 7 mil on Facebook, man. I have a donation page, and you got the link to it on my page. My mom suffers from Alzheimer's, so it's something I've been partaking in for the last few years, man. And I decided to try to build out and be more impactful in trying to find this cure, man. It's a real thing. It's devastating, and there's a ton of people out here that's affected by Alzheimer's and dealing with loved ones who have Alzheimer's, man. So again, that's
I'm sorry, my fault. I didn't mean
no,
to
I was just
interrupt.
gonna say again, that's Citizens Bank Park, 9 a.m. November 13th to Saturday morning, man. Come out, show some love. What
The
you gonna say, son?
donations stop on November 13th, or is that still going to be open afterwards?
You know what? That's a great question, man. I'm not sure, but I would think that you can make donations year round. Is what I would want to say because
To
yeah.
your particular link as well?
Well, if not, what I will do as soon as right after I'm sorry, right after November 13th to Saturday is over with, I'm going to re-register because I want to actually get a little bit more ahead of this. You know what I'm saying? For next year. So, I'm going to re-register. Hopefully I can re-register and start that day on the
And do
new
you
one.
know the link? Can you give us the link for the
No.
donations? You don't know it right off top?
Like I said, just go on my Facebook page, 7 mil.
Okay.
And I have it's called Bars Battalion. Wow. It's called Bars Battalion. And that's the name of the team for my mom. and in the bio is a link where you can make a donation straight to the foundation. Let me see if I can pull that up for you real quick.
Yeah, I have it. I have it right here. It's act.alz.org.
Yes, it is. At Alzheimer's.org is what it's abbreviated for. Bars Battalion. Walked in Alzheimer's team page.
Word. All right, so till next week, man. It's been an honor as usual. You know what I
Indeed.
mean?
Indeed. Yeah, we're gonna I appreciate you.
Likewise.